Hi guys, it's Vikram, and today we'll be talking a little bit about the history of Buddhism. So, to learn about the history of Buddhism, we first have to learn about the life of Buddha, its creator. So, Buddha wasn't always called Buddha. He was actually born Siddhartha Gautama in present day Nepal. And Nepal is a country that's very close to modern day India. So, because Siddhartha Gautama was born a prince, he had access to many of the luxuries of life. He didn't have to worry about, day-to-day life. He had money, wealth, and riches. He was in a very stable position in life. And you would think that someone in this kind of position would be content where they are and they wouldn't want to explore further outside the palace because what need is there to go past the palace? Well, one day a soothsayer came and told the king, his father, that either Buddha would be a great king or he'd be a great sage. And the king was a bit worried at this news because he didn't want Gautama to become a sage. So, because of this, the king tried to keep Gautama within the palace walls and oblivious to the suffering outside the palace walls. But one day Gautama became curious and he asked the charioteer to take him outside of the palace. And when the charioteer did this, Gautama saw a man of old age. And because Gautama had been in a very closed environment, this was completely new to him. So when he asked the charioteer what was going on, the charioteer said that the man was suffering of old age. And Buddha asked the charioteer whether everyone suffers of old age. To which the charioteer said, yes, everyone suffers of old age, and one day even you, Gautama, are going to become old. And Gautama, understandably, was horrified at this news. And he was really surprised because up until then, he had no idea about this kind of suffering. But he was still curious and he asked the charioteer to take him outside the palace once again. This time he saw a dying man. And he asked the charioteer if everyone dies, to which the charioteer replied, yes, everyone dies, and one day even you will die. Another time when he went outside the palace in the chariot, he saw someone sick, and he asked the charioteer if everyone gets sick, to which the charioteer replied, yeah, everyone gets sick, even you could get sick. So after seeing all the suffering in the outside world, Gautama was no longer content simply being in the palace and enjoying his life because there was so much suffering going on in the outside world. And in one of his chariot rides outside, he'd seen an ascetic, and that inspired him to go outside the palace, renounce his riches and his family, and to go meditate outside. And initially, he practiced poverty. So he didn't eat anything. He lived on very little, and then he suffered of hunger. So then he decided to practice a middle way of life where he wouldn't have too much riches, but he would be able to sustain himself. And like this, he contemplated, he meditated on the cause of suffering, and after many years, he attained enlightenment, which he taught to many of his followers. Even though Buddha died, his teachings still lived on. Now, how did they live on? Well, some kings, for example, adopted Buddha's teachings as a state religion. And because of this, many subjects were exposed to Buddha's teachings or Buddhism, and Buddhism continued to live on. For example, Ashoka the Great, a Mauryan Indian emperor, adopted Buddhism as a state religion. And even though he didn't force his subjects to practice the religion, because he adopted it, many subjects were exposed to it and chose to practice the religion. But this isn't the only way in which Buddhism spread after Buddha died. After Buddha died, many of his disciples established monasteries, and monks from these monasteries often traveled along trade routes. And also merchants, Buddhist merchants also traveled along trade routes. And because of this, Buddha's teaching spread to other parts of Asia, such as countries in East Asia, such as China, Korea, and Japan, countries in Southeast Asia, such as Burma, Laos, Thailand. And yeah, because of these trade routes, Buddhism spread to other parts of Asia. And over the time, as Buddhism developed, three forms of Buddhism came into existence. The first was Theravada Buddhism, present in Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, and Burma. Mahayana Buddhism, which is prevalent in China, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, and Vietnam. And Tibetan Buddhism, which is prevalent in Tibet, Nepal, Mongolia, Bhutan, parts of Russia, and northern India. Even though it's been many centuries since Buddhism has been established, it is still a very relevant religion. And because of this, Buddhists today follow many festivals and practices that still continue to live on. For example, many Buddhists revere the Dalai Lama. This, so Tibetan Buddhists view the Dalai Lama as their head monk, or the kind of guide for Tibetan Buddhism. And because of this, the Dalai Lama is a respected figure for many Buddhists around the world. Also, Buddhists celebrate the festival of Vesak, which commemorates Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and death. They also celebrate the Buddhist New Year and a festival called Uposatha, which takes place during each phase of the moon. And during this festival, Buddhists renew the commitment to their teachings of Buddha. So, although this video is more about the history of Buddhism, it's still important to cover some of the Buddhist beliefs to get a better idea of how the religion is developed over time. So, one of the core Buddhist beliefs is the idea of nirvana, the fact that once humans escape suffering and let go of the desires that cause suffering, they can attain eternal peace. And Buddhists don't believe in a God, because even though they thought Buddha was a very enlightened being, they never thought he was a god. They believe in the Four Noble Truths, which outline the causes and the solution to suffering, which Buddha felt was the core problem of life. And in these Four Noble Truths, Buddha talks about how desire is the cause of suffering, and how to get rid of suffering, you have to let go of this desire. And to describe how to attain nirvana and end suffering, Buddha gives the Eightfold Path. And this wheel, which you can see on the right, is a representation of this Eightfold Path because it has 8 spokes. And Buddhists believe in Dharma, or doing the right thing according to Buddha's teachings. Thanks for watching.